Okay, brass check, I'm back. And a lot of people like that last rapid fire three highlights clip. So I'm going to do another one. Don't expect a lot of them until, I don't know, maybe the fall. I'm writing a book. Please be prepared when it comes out to support it and talk it up. It's going to be, I'm going to say, the most insightful book on what's wrong with medicine, but we'll just say one of the most insightful books. But I hope you'll support it. The book is called, what am I calling it? I am calling it How We Are Made and What to Do About It. And it will give you a radical view of health, disease, healing, and longevity. So, anyway, today our focus is on food, and we're going to start off with the great Bill Gates because Bill Gates never rests. Would you believe Bill Gates is going to show the farmers of Africa how to grow food better? Now, here's the thing you have to understand: they may not have a lot of fertilizer, they may not have a lot of land, they may not have GMO seeds, but Africa actually feeds itself in spite of all the nonsense you see on TV. Unless there's a war, unless there's a catastrophe, the people of Africa have fed themselves very successfully. In fact, they're probably better fed than most overfed, poisoned Americans.
In 2006, Bill Gates and a number of other philanthropists launched an ambitious plan to revolutionize farming in Africa. Now, taken at face value, that sounds like a good thing.
The Africans, I think, will choose to let their people have enough to eat.
But it's actually created a new reliance as well as a whole host of other problems, such as outlawing centuries-old traditional farming methods, forcing farmers to be dependent on Western corporations, and creating a biodiversity crisis. So why are philanthropists meddling in developing countries' farming once again? For as long as farming has existed, African farmers have saved, swapped, and shared seeds, a money-free system that's provided over 90% of the seeds they plant. There are an estimated 33 million small-scale farms across the continent, producing around 70% of Africa's food supply. This biodiverse, self-sustaining method has fed communities for generations. And it was against this backdrop in 2006 that the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation and the Rockefeller Foundation launched the Alliance for a Green Revolution in Africa, or AGRA, to boost farm productivity and help farmers and their families lift themselves out of poverty and hunger. Bill Gates believes that the key to solving the continent's hunger is in optimizing farming.
For Africa, this is going to make a huge difference, particularly as they face climate change, the increased productivity and resilience of the seeds, most of which will come from the new scientific techniques. Kenya just approved BT maize. The Europeans have decided they don't want to use it, most of them.
The 2012 Seed and Plant Varieties Act made it illegal to sell, share, or save uncertified seeds for commercial crops. Farmers can keep seeds for personal use, but those who trade them face fines of over £6,000 or up to 2 years in prison.
Well, how do you like that? Old Bill Gates is going to improve the world again. He's going to do it by throwing African farmers in jail who dare to save their seeds. By the way, I found an article on this long ago. The guy who wrote it refuses to communicate with me. The place that published it refuses to communicate with me. They want to pretend that article never happened. I saw it. I read it. Here's what the article said. It said that GMO seeds are less resilient to climate change, to drought, to extreme weather conditions, that it's actually the seeds in the hands of farmers locally that are far more resilient to any kind of climate variations. We won't call it climate change because climate variation happens all the time. So when Mr. Gates is telling you that he's bringing these GMO seeds to Africa to save the world from climate change, he's absolutely lying. But it's very interesting how impossible it is to get that article resurrected and brought to the public. I mean, if I had a full-time staff of 100, maybe I could get that information, but they're making it as hard as possible. They let it out by mistake. I caught it, and they do not want you to hear that. All right, so let's go to the next one. Wow, on the theme of Bill Gates, old Mr. Gates, and his company that he's not CEO anymore. He just owns it. It's called Microsoft, a little company called Microsoft. They've just signed a $1.2 billion deal with Coca-Cola using AI, about AI. Really? That doesn't make any sense at all on any level. Now, it turns out Coca-Cola was found to have fluorescent nanoparticles in it. Maybe now it's making a little bit more sense that our old friend Bill Gates and Coca-Cola see the need to get involved with each other.
Well, Bill Gates is at it again in 2024. It's revealed that he and Microsoft and Coca-Cola merged in a $1.1 billion deal to forward the work of technology and beverages. Take a look at this clip and we'll be right back to talk about it.
Coca-Cola has this new partnership with Microsoft. It's a 5-year strategic partnership, and they've made a commitment of $1.1 billion to be able to boost the Microsoft cloud and its generative AI capabilities. But it's an exchange because they want to accelerate Coca-Cola's technology transformation, and they will use Microsoft Cloud as the globally preferred and strategic cloud and AI platform for Coca-Cola.
AI generated manufacturing in the bottling process. However, in 2017, nanoparticles were discovered in Coca-Cola. Now, these were supposedly harmless additives to Coca-Cola, and it was just mainly about making the beverage tastier. But what is nanoparticles and what is it doing in our food? Now, with further investigation, it looks like nanoparticles are a part of our everyday consumer item. It's in sunscreen, it's in deodorant, it's in toothpaste. So it's not something that is foreign to us. However, we may not be aware that these products contain nanoparticles. But the Coca-Cola discovery of nanoparticles, these were fluorescent nanoparticles in Coca-Cola. Scientists and researchers have shown that when you have nanoparticles in a beverage like Coca-Cola, it has the freedom to migrate wherever it wants to in the body.
New research in Britain has raised concerns about the potentially harmful effect of nanoparticles. The emerging technology is used in a variety of medicines and even sunscreen. The research found that the small particles could damage the DNA of cells.
They're tiny microscopic particles which can store and release drugs in specific areas of the body. As a result, nanoparticles are increasingly being used in medicine and surgery. But because the particles are so small, there's been growing concerns about potential toxicity.
There's an emerging sort of body of evidence that says that for some particles of certain scales and of certain materials, that there are potential health risks.
New British research has added to that concern. It found nanoparticles could damage cells without even entering them. Scientists found the particles change the function of cells and how they communicate with other cells.
What this study shows is that even with a barrier between the blood supply where the nanoparticles are and cells, that there can be damage to cells, and not just a bit of damage, but significant damage to the DNA.
Okay, so I don't know what that's all about, quite honestly. Fluorescent nanoparticles in Coca-Cola. We do know nanoparticles are bad. They're not good. There's nothing good about a nanoparticle, especially in your Coca-Cola. Hopefully you're wise enough and you're advising everybody you know to not drink that stuff. But now you have another reason not to drink it. Yeah, I don't know what to say, but it can't be good. It can't be good. All right, so let's go on to the third and last one. This is amazing. I can't believe I didn't know this. I'm going to imagine a lot of people didn't know this, but we used to have a big tobacco industry. Lots of people smoked. And as the sinister Warren Buffett said, and if anybody thinks he's grandpa, you're just delusional. He loved the cigarette industry. He had a lot of investment in the cigarette industry. And he loved cigarettes because, in his words, you can find these quotes if you look hard enough. They cost a penny to make, they sell for $1, and they're addictive. Okay, this is the modus operandi of a psychopath. In any event, talking about psychopaths, after the US government pretty much shut down the tobacco industry, of course, they switched over to the 10 times more deadly vaping industry, but that's a whole other story. But they took all their cash, and what did they do? They bought junk food companies. And what did they do with all those sinister scientists they employed to make cigarettes as addictive as possible? Oh, they turned them to making junk food as addictive as possible. So here's the deal on that.
What happened is when the Surgeon General way too late in the 1980s said cigarettes were maybe problematic, these were some of the largest companies in the world with the largest cash piles of any company in the world. So what they did is they used their cash piles to buy food companies. We think about the 80s as the Wall Street era M&A, a lot of deals. The two biggest M&A deals up until 1990 in world history were cigarette companies buying food companies.
This wasn't just any corporate strategy. It was a calculated move by giants like R.J. Reynolds and Philip Morris, who were facing growing public backlash and tighter regulations on tobacco. Philip Morris, for instance, acquired Kraft Foods in 1988 for $12.9 billion, and later bought Nabisco in 2000 for $14.9 billion, creating one of the world's largest food conglomerates. Similarly, R.J. Reynolds merged with Nabisco Brands in 1985. These acquisitions weren't about diversifying. They were about taking the addictive expertise from cigarettes and applying it to food. These companies brought their vast knowledge of addiction science directly into your kitchen, influencing the very fabric of the American diet. It wasn't just about expanding their portfolio. It was about applying the same addictive principles of nicotine to food products, thus ensuring that the same business model, creating lifelong consumers, remained profitable. But this is just the tip of the iceberg. Let's listen to Callie.
So you had in the 90s these two cigarette companies very strategically do two things. They shifted their thousands of scientists who were experts at making cigarettes addictive to the food department. So we had the rise of ultra-processed food where our food now is a science experiment. The second thing they did is they shifted their lobbying. So the cigarette industry, of course, was the biggest, lobbying spenders and had a good playbook. They shifted their playbook on lobbying and rigging institutions of trust to food. So they created the food pyramid. So the cigarette industry, through the food companies they bought, paid off the FDA, the USDA, Harvard to create reports saying sugar doesn't cause obesity. And they lobbied for the food pyramid in the 1990s, we all remember, which said, animal-based fats are bad, carbs are good. Remember, carbs and sugar were basically the base of the pyramid. So the American diet, because of that, because we trust our medical institutions, which they know, we shifted our diet significantly to ultra-processed food. It was very intentional, the food pyramid. That was a ultra-processed food marketing document that carbs were fine, sugar was fine. And that shifted, and you look at dietary patterns. Today, a child diet is 70% ultra-processed food. Now, what does that mean, right? Those are literally foods invented by the cigarette industry to addict kids.
Okay, so we started off with Bill Gates working to help the people of Africa by destroying their indigenous farming practices. Then we went to Microsoft and Coca-Cola banding together in some mysterious artificial intelligence deal. And when you include the fact that recently Coca-Cola was found to have nanoparticles that were fluorescent in them, that's a little concerning. And then finally, we got the real deal on why American health collapsed in the last 20 years. All the deviant scientists that were working for the tobacco industry, working on getting people addicted to tobacco, and they worked hard on that. I mean, tobacco has a certain addictive quality, but that wasn't good enough for the bad guys. They needed to make it uber addictive. And they also needed to make sure that the cigarettes kept burning, right? Because you don't want a cigarette to go out because somebody might put it, if it's out, they might just, put it in the ashtray and be gone with it. No, they want cigarettes to burn right down in the filter. That's chemistry, folks. Anyway, they took all that money they had, those tobacco demons, and they put it into the junk food business. And they took all those demonic scientists, and they know what they're doing. I mean, hey, I was just following orders. Sieg Heil. And all those tobacco scientists went into the junk food business of getting people addicted to corn syrup. I was going to say sugar, but they don't even put sugar in it. They just put corn syrup in and whatever other chemical brew they come up with. Cheap, addictive food. You make it for a penny, you sell it for $1, and it's addictive. And by the way, Warren Buffett rode that wave from tobacco to junk food. He's firmly invested in junk food. Anyway, that's food today in America.
Brass Check TV, free to you, not free to us. We've got a server bill, we've got an email software bill, we've got a tech helper bill, and that happens every month. So to everybody that is supporting us financially, that's paying for their subscription in one way or another, we really appreciate it. If you're not, consider doing so. Everybody's got money for the newspaper and the cable bill and all that. Do you have money for media that's actually serving you? That's really the issue here. And when you help us, it allows us to get this information out to the world. So thanks to all our supporters, and if you're not a supporter already, please consider becoming one.